Welcome to Certain Point of View, your first step into a much nerdier world. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. Just go to certainpov.com. Thanks. And now your hosts, Ben Milton and Addie Thomas.
Hey, Nerf Herders, I'm Addie Thomas.
And I am Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View, another news episode. Don't forget, you can find the other streams, the other episodes that used to be on the Certain Point of View feed, like Another Pass and the Scruffy Nerf Herders, which is our D20 Star Wars RPG game. All of those now have their own feeds. You can find those feeds on our website, certainpov.com. You can subscribe to them individually so that you get the episodes that you want. So if you want all three, subscribe to all three. But if you only want one or two out of those three, subscribe to the ones that you want. All of that is on our website, certainpov.com. All our social media is there, everything, Patreon, all of that again, certainpov.com.
T-shirts,
that's right. We do have T-shirts.
T-shirts there. It's awesome. There's a lot going on that website.
Yeah.
For as simple as the website is, there's a lot happening.
Does Jenny have her crafts up on there too?
No, I took those down.
Oh, but I thought she has some stuff coming up soon, doesn't she? Like
she's
some new patterns?
She's working on some new stuff. She's really busy with a couple other projects, but we'll see. There may be some new stuff for Christmas coming up, for some Christmas ornaments coming up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that'll be awesome because I have my my Walking Dead gingerbread men, which I'm very happy with, and a couple Star Wars ones too in there. So it's they're pretty awesome. So.
They are pretty amazing. I'm a little biased.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Anyways, so let's get into the news for this episode. Actually, before though, we'll let you know Case is actually going to be joining us later on in this episode to tell us a little bit about Star Trek Discovery and his thoughts and his perspective, since one, I didn't bother to watch it, and two, I'm not really much of a Star Trek fan to begin with, so it'd be probably a good idea to get the perspective of an actual Star Trek fan.
Somebody who's seen it and somebody who likes Star Trek, yes.
Right. Well, all right, so let's get going with the nerd news. Burger King Russia is now seeking a ban on the film It in their country. Reportedly, they have complained to the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service about the clown character Pennywise from the film, basically claiming that he looks identical to Ronald McDonald. As per the complaint, Burger King has claimed that the film is serving as an advertisement for their competitor McDonald's.
Okay. What?
Yeah. It's funny, like McDonald's
do
just
all clowns look alike? That seems racist to me.
Well, I mean, I guess the color palette is close, and both are creepy in their own ways. I mean, Pennywise is extra creepy.
Because he's got fangs, he lives in a sewer, and he eats children.
Right. But, like, we kind of assume Ronald does a lot of the same things,
no,
right?
I assume Ronald
actually lives in
doesn't
McDonald's.
have fangs. He's super sticky, and he touches children.
Oh, okay.
It's completely different. It's subtle, but it's completely different.
Well, according to a report from Variety, ABC was all but ready to cancel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after its fourth season, and would have done so if not for Disney pulling rank and forcing its renewal. No specific reason is mentioned for the potential cancellation, though the publication notes that the network is sort of mired in an overall ratings rut.
I mean, we knew that. I remember a couple seasons ago, like them talking like this probably is going to be it. It's probably not going to be renewed. And then all of a sudden it was like, and it's renewed.
With Ghost Rider.
Yeah. And you were like, wait, what? All right, great. That sounds amazing. But I thought it was done. And like,
yeah.
So, I mean, this show has never done well in the ratings. My question is, like, is it going to make it past this season? Like, because I think it lives its usefulness for Disney up until the big event with Thanos. And then after that, everything changes, and you don't really need that show anymore.
Do you think so? Because it doesn't. I don't know how much are they really investing in that show into the build up to like what's happening in the bigger MCU.
Right. Well, enough to keep it around.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. I wonder what metric they're using to look at that show as a success. Because even like it's not like they looked at Agent Carter and they were like, you know what, third season's not going to happen for that one. So it's not that Disney does feel like there is something successful about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I just want to know where they view that success.
Where they see it going, that they are willing to eat the losses,
right,
and not jump on a new show. And
if it's not doing well in the ratings, why not move it to Netflix or something like that?
Well, I think because they have their 3 separate universes.
Yeah,
they lied to us and said that it's all connected,
right?
But it's not.
Yeah, well, it's sort of connected.
It's loosely based on each other.
They're connected, but they're just not connected in to the extent that we'd like.
They're loosely based on each other. You're not going to have Iron Man showing up on Netflix. You're not even going to have him on TV, and you're not going to have Quake on Netflix. Those universes run independently of each other.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, Hawkeye will star in a prequel comic set 5 years before the events of Old Man Logan, appropriately titled Old Man Hawkeye. Daily News reporter Ethan Sachs will write the 12-issue miniseries, and Mark Chichetto will provide art. Sachs told the New York Daily News, in this story, Hawkeye's losing his vision, and that sort of forces him to confront something really horrible that happened to him personally 45 years ago, and then to go on his own hero's journey while he still can. It's very much like a ticking clock that's forcing him into action.
Okay, are we going to do an Old Man for everybody?
Have you not read Old Man Logan?
Yeah.
He was in Old Man Logan.
Yeah, it was great. I don't need an Old Man Hawkeye. I don't need an Old Man Puck. I don't need Old Man Captain Britain. I don't need Old Woman Captain Marvel. Enough with the old man. It was a good idea once. Do we have to do an Old Man for everybody?
Well, it's a second time. It's hardly this is hardly a trend to be all right, we're doing
Trust me,
Old Man
sells,
Spider-Man.
They're going to do an Old Man Spider-Man. They're going to Old Man everybody this shit. It was an idea. This is just paid. They were like, oh shit, Logan, the movie did really well. Old Man Logan was really popular.
It's not just Old Man
Let's jump on this shit.
It's a little bit more than that, though. Well, there's more than that that's been proving its success, because you have Old Man Logan, the original Mark Millar series. Then you have the fact they in Secret Wars they brought him into the main universe, so that Old Man Logan is now the current Wolverine. So that Old Man Logan series has been doing well. So it's a character that was really well liked in that first Old Man Logan
Which
series.
Is fine.
That's getting a spin-off.
Do we need an Old Man Hawkeye is my point. That's my point. Do we need an Old Man Hawkeye?
No, we don't need any comics.
Lies, sir. Lies. That is blasphemy in this church. Sir, you take that back.
No, I mean, if you're going to use need as the standard...
Absolutely need
we would have never
stories.
needed an original Old Man Logan.
That was a great story.
But again, if you pitched it before, who knows? I think there's potential in this story. They have an interesting idea for a character who's losing his the most important feature, his most important skill as
Wolverine's healing factor.
Old Man Logan still has his healing factor. It's just slower.
Well, he can still see. It's just through cataracts.
Well, yeah, I guess it's cool seeing it with another character. It's the same
story. Yeah, it's the same. It's just
just replace. It's not the same story.
It's the same. All right. Okay.
It's not like Hawkeye killed all the mutants.
No, he didn't. We don't know that yet. He'll probably have killed all the Avengers.
Oh, really?
all of the West Coast Avengers will have been killed by Hawkeye. That's where they're going to take this story.
I think it's an interesting world, so I kind of like the idea of expanding out into it, the Wasteland universe.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's interesting, because we saw one corner of it, because Millar did build out he had that map of the U.S. and the way it was divided between different supervillains and the what each everyone's kind of evolved into.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I see potential.
This is what 5 years before that though.
Yeah, but that happened 5 years before Old Man Logan.
Right, where it already
so it's already happened.
All right, I guess.
Well, we'll see.
I'm not excited about it.
Well, the Avengers past and present will unite for Marvel Legacy's Avengers No Surrender story arc. But Marvel Comics doesn't want you to call it an event, at least not an event with a capital E. Rather, the massive weekly storyline will be contained to one series, The Avengers. Discussing Marvel's break from sort of big events, which traditionally includes slews of tie-ins, Marvel Senior Vice President and Executive Editor Tom Brevoort explained to Newsarama how no surrender works around the new rule. The Marvel exec said that the no surrender model for events shouldn't be ruled out of, going forward. He said a lot of the continuation of the no surrender event model will depend on how all this works out, but this is definitely the kind of big story you can expect in Legacy. The main thing that we're not going to be doing are those kind of bringing all the heroes together, touching every corner of the Marvel Universe, one core title with lots of tie-ins and miniseries, capital E events. He added, but part of the motivation for No Surrender and for those kind of event stories is to do something that fans can get excited about, getting into the shops and picking up every week. So we very well could see this kind of model applied to that kind of thing in the future.
So this makes a lot of sense to me. I actually really like this idea. Like, Marvel has been, their big events have been notoriously sucktown, right?
Yeah.
Because they've got this huge expansive universe, and somehow you've got to, link in this crappy tie-in to Cloak and Dagger, something having something to do with something, and nobody really gives a shit about Cloak and Dagger. It's always been kind of annoying to try and keep up with these big events because they slip in important stuff in issue number 17 of Cloak and Dagger, and you're like, fuck, now I gotta read Cloak and Dagger. Like, really? Now I gotta buy this. It's always been a bit of a money grab. Yeah. And it has always smelled like a money grab. And so it's nice not to have to read Cloak and Dagger, Great Lakes Avengers, or West Palm Beach X-Men, or whatever little shitty title that they're trying to pimp out this week. And you can have a good smaller event and make it a good story that doesn't have Hawkeye using trick arrows against an alien invasion or some such nonsense.
Well, in a recent interview, Jeff Johns revealed that Warner Brothers is moving away from the need to make every one of their movies feel connected after Justice League. He was basically talking about them being like Wonder Woman in the respect that they take place in the same world, but are mostly standalone adventures, which don't necessarily set up what's going to happen in subsequent releases. But many fans weren't happy with that, and a lot of sites misunderstood his comments, as they assumed Johns meant that the concept of a shared film universe was being ditched altogether. That's not the case, though, and he's taken to Twitter to make it clear these heroes will remain in the same world. Warner Brothers is working on a series of totally standalone movies, but it seems we can expect the Justice League characters to remain part of the same universe, even if they don't always cross paths in their solo outings.
I mean, I think this is a good idea, don't you? Crossovers are fun. Crossovers are fun, but you don't have to have them all the time. It's good for DC to have this opportunity to kind of build standalone movies in a shared universe, but you don't, the assumption isn't Iron Man's going to be in every movie.
Yeah, I've actually felt DC would be smart to actually go in the other direction from Marvel. Not in the way that they currently are doing.
Just making bad movies,
yeah. But, there is a certain burden on the style of storytelling with Marvel, and it's not a bad thing that some people claim, it waters down the stories and they're repetitive or whatever. I always view it as, it's the TV model, kind of in the film world. I think with, with that, there is work to work on timelines, if something that is this big is happening, there should be some sort of rationale to why everyone isn't teaming up for big stuff or, why people are separate. And I think Marvel's done a very good job of it, but there is a certain burden on that kind of filmmaking as far as the scale that you're constantly going up. Whereas I'm fine with DC kind of doing a crossover where it makes sense every now and then, but I would be fine if they just said screw continuity and just make movies. Let directors just run with it.
Just kind of go back to like the Batman films that they weren't really connected.
Yeah, exactly.
Before Nolan.
Yeah, even before Nolan. Well, yeah, they weren't really connected. Like Batman and then Batman Returns and Forever and then Batman and Robin were in theory kind of a continuation, but they never really, but they weren't.
Yeah.
They
were switching out Batmans every movie.
Exactly. But it gives you the freedom to cast whoever, let the director use whoever they want. It gives you the freedom to tell lots of different stories and
different styles of stories too.
Exactly. So they're not stuck in look and aesthetic and soundtrack, because all of those kind of stuff are cool and all, and it's nice to coordinate it in a shared universe. But I think we're already seeing so many people, so many companies are trying to make these shared universes happen. just make some movies that work on their own. You know, like I'm definitely not necessarily a fan of some of the Joker ideas that they're having, but I can't say that like a Scorsese Joker isn't like I can on paper it's a good idea. You know, it's just that we've had too much Joker recently. But it get like let's say like all right, if you have a Justice League movie, have it and it's successful, do a sequel to that Justice League movie with that same cast if you want. But leave that Justice League alone and keep Batman separate from it if you want to, even if it's a totally different guy playing Batman. I think people kind of feel audiences are stupid and can't tell that, oh, this Batman movie doesn't have anything to do with the Justice League movie. And it's
well,
fine.
Let me ask you that. I mean, that's an interesting point about the audience, because like my wife is a prime example of this, right? She'll watch a movie with me and she'd be like, how, like she understands now that superhero movies are connected to each other.
Yeah.
And that they're all tied in and that something happened before this one to make, you know, who is this guy and how is he connected to this guy? Like we've kind of created in our society, like that expectation in superhero movies now that it's quote unquote all connected, right? That there's these shared universes.
Marvel's done that.
Yeah, I understand that Marvel's done that, but my wife doesn't know that Batman and Iron Man aren't in the same company and don't cross over with each other.
But I think that is exactly the case for, you know, why to do it. Because I know one thing, like, so my brother is a prime example of this, is, you know, he enjoys the Marvel movies occasionally, like Guardians of the Galaxy in particular, but part of that is also because he didn't have to worry about knowing what happened in other movies. You know, that the appeal of Guardians was that I don't care what happened with Iron Man. I don't need to worry about, okay, where do we last leave off with Thor? You know, all that kind of stuff. So because that first Guardians movie is very much a standalone movie, even though there are a couple elements here and there that do connect it to the bigger universe. For all intents and purposes, when it came out, it was a standalone movie. And I think if DC was to do that, it would make it easier for the average audience member to go watch a movie and to just say, you know what, I'm just going to take this Wonder Woman movie on its own. I'm going to take this Flash movie on its own. And, you know, maybe they can do a movie where it's a crossover with Flash and Cyborg because they're both working at Star Labs if they really want to. But you let those characters stand on their own. You let that movie stand on their own. You let that director have that vision. In a way, you kind of let the DC movies be director focused rather than producer focused, and it creates a different style. You have a little bit more of an auteur style with the DC, but you have a really cool, long developed serialized story with Marvel. Both are really cool in their own ways, but I think it'd be cool if they kind of take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think from a fan standpoint, that's true. I think you're overestimating the intelligence of the average moviegoer that's not into comic books to be able to tell that difference.
Yeah.
And I think there would be some confusion in DC movies about, well, like,
but do you think the average audience member really go, like, when they see a trailer, when they see the general marketing for a movie, do they automatically think about, like, what is this all connected to? They
look at superhero movies now, yes, they do.
You think so? Okay.
I think they absolutely do at this point.
Yeah.
Because they're so used to seeing it now. I mean, we've been doing this for a decade. Like, where they're used to it now when it comes to superhero movies. I think so.
Well, fan site StarWarsNews.net has confirmed that the sequel's second trailer will be released on October 9th. If this date holds true, it syncs up with what the since-deleted tweet from Mark Hamill said. He last week responded to a fan's question about the trailer by recommending he watch Monday Night Football on October 9th. The first trailer for The Last Jedi actually premiered in April.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was already known. Do we really have to give Star Wars News not credit for this? Like, I thought it was pretty common news that's when the trailer was. I mean, like,
I don't think it is.
Well, I saw that tweet from Mark Hamill like all over the internet.
Yeah, but it was also deleted.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that it's not true. That means it is true. I mean, that's like a common way to lead, to put out information now. Like, that's how people do things. I will say this: it doesn't really matter whether or not they broke it or Hamill tweeted it or whatever. Who really cares?
I was just giving credit because I know I didn't. I wasn't the source.
Right, we didn't know.
Yeah.
So you didn't hear it here first. You did hear it here. but just not first. I think that this is probably going to be the only NFL game that I'll be watching this year, though. That's for sure.
Is Luke Skywalker the true chosen one? Yoda may have never thought so. An idea revealed in a new book called Star Wars from a Certain Point of View, which has absolutely no association with us as an official Star Wars book.
And if we make a big deal about it, we'll probly get sued.
Yeah, so we're not going to try to track.
We're going to be the bigger person and just look past.
We're not going to be Burger King Russia. This upcoming new Star Wars book reveals that Yoda always thought Leia was the more powerful Force user in the Skywalker family, and that she was the true chosen one who would bring balance to the Force. The book, which is a collection of short stories celebrating the 40th anniversary of A New Hope, fills in a ton of gaps and plot holes that fans have had over the years when it comes to the Star Wars galaxy and many of the stories contained within. One story is called There Is Another, a direct nod to the line given by Yoda.
I see what they did.
Given by Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. This story fills in some pretty big plot holes when it comes to Yoda. We learn how Force Ghost Obi-Wan arrived on Dagobah to inform Yoda that he'd soon be training the Chosen One, whom Obi-Wan believed to be Luke. Yoda's first reaction is that he's excited to train her. Yoda just assumes that Ben is talking about Leia, and he's not, and that's why we get such a grumpy Yoda in Empire. An exiled Jedi Master who just doesn't believe that this whiny kid is the true chosen one to restore the Jedi and bring peace to the galaxy. The book goes on to offer a sort of weird connection to the Phantom Menace. We come to find out that Obi-Wan has actually been using the cloak of his fallen master Qui-Gon Jinn as a blanket after the Jedi was killed by Darth Maul. In the book, there is a moment where Yoda tells Ben that he too is finally ready to cross over to the other realm, but Obi-Wan prevents Yoda actually from doing so to keep him at Dagobah so that he can train Luke. Another reason why Yoda is such a grump when we first encounter him.
Okay, first things first. What on earth gives Yoda the impression that Leia is more powerful in the Force than Luke? There's nothing anywhere else in canon that would give that indication.
I don't know what Yoda is thinking or what he's seen in the Force. We know. Okay, so the only thought could be that maybe Yoda is so in touch with the Force, because he is at a place where there is a large dark side presence at the very least. So there is. I don't know. I mean, we also know that he's reached out to Ahsoka and communicated to Ahsoka sort of through the Force as well, and with Ezra at one point as well while he was on Dagobah.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the only rationale I can think for why he feels one way or the other. My thought is, I wonder what the implications for the new trilogy that this has. And in some ways, it may not be necessarily a Leia thing anymore now that Carrie Fisher is gone, but there were all intentions for Leia to be a much bigger character,
a big character in the last act.
Right.
So
I mean, maybe there is something to this idea that just he was better attuned to the Force. I mean, maybe he got all that practice from being, Force blocked from Palpatine. All of those scenes in the prequels.
That's what made him all grumpy.
Was just losing.
He was just like, damn, I lost my lightsaber.
I mean, that's pretty. Yeah, that did suck. I don't know.
I was in a really bad movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, though, it paints sort of towards the side of the whole idea of the Skywalker sibling, originally not supposed to be Leia, but, now obviously is maybe that Rey is sort of a replacement for that, and that Rey may really be the chosen one, that Luke's failures were just sort of the path along the way for Rey to be the true chosen one, that she's the one technically fulfilling this prophecy. Who knows if it's by maybe through a gray Jedi order or what exactly, but I don't know. I think it says something interesting about who Luke really is in sort of this sort of the bigger picture of the cosmic Force and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you can totally take a look at it from that way. You can also take a look at it from a much more cynical point of view.
Yes, Ben.
Yes. Which is that Star Wars and Disney Star Wars especially have been really intentional about pushing the idea of female heroes and making the female heroes
I didn't even think about
a really
that.
big part of the Star Wars universe. And that, like we have the daughter that was the Forces of Destiny series, which was all about the female characters,
right, and the toy line and everything like that. Yeah,
right. There's been a big intentional push, and then you also have like the idea of like, hey, this is a really nice nod to Carrie Fisher, without really changing anything.
Yeah,
as a tribute to her as well too. It could be any one of those things. It could be a combination of those things. I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. Like, it's kind of like a meh story point, which is why it's in a kind of an offshoot book.
Yeah, but it feels like there's a lot of effort just because of one of the things that we've talked about that we really enjoy with the new Star Wars universe is Story Group's hand in the way they're building out this universe.
Right.
Especially through the expanded universe as well. And it feels like they're planting little clues here and there that can contribute to the world building that's in the movies and in the TV shows and all of that, even when it's in a short story or a novel or a comic as well. So that's why I don't know that, like, looking at it from the Story Group perspective, I mean, I can definitely agree that maybe there is, an agenda side of it, but I kind of thought more going back to like the original versions of, when
like a tribute to Lucas's original ideas, sort of, and kind of making that fit.
Yeah, because the whole "there is another" line is a huge plot hole in Star Wars, and very sloppily kind of tried to like, oh, okay, Leia's the other one, So and so while they have to work with that, they have to kind of give a rationale for that. I mean,
or
maybe
they could have left it alone.
I don't know if I would want them to. Would you want them to leave that alone?
I mean, it's been left alone for 30 years. I mean, it's nice. It's very nice that they decided to do this and try to fix this plot hole, because it is. You're absolutely right. It's really sloppy. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's nice that they did it. Is it necessary? Not really. Would I rather have them put some effort into some new stories and some new direction in Star Wars? Way more.
Let's take Disney out of the picture, because even before, while the Disney sale was happening, well, actually before the Disney sale was happening, Lucas was looking at doing 7, 8, and 9 and got in touch with Hamill and Ford and Fisher before he made the deal with Kathleen Kennedy and Disney. Do you think that There Is Another line would have played any role moving forward into 7, 8, and 9?
I mean, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, would Carrie Fisher still die along the way?
Right.
Like,
and he'd have to rework it.
Rework it no matter what. Like, that's a lot of what ifs.
It is a lot of what ifs. But do you think Lucas, knowing that the Skywalker sibling was going to be an important character, and for all intents and purposes, it always seemed like it was going to be a girl and a boy, even if it wasn't Leia. Yeah. That you don't think there's any sort of credibility to it being another female character who's going to be more powerful? Because from Gary Kurtz's version of the events was that the other Skywalker sibling was going to be trained off on like the other side of the galaxy and was going to be much more powerful than Luke and much more actually have a whole lot more control than Luke necessarily did.
Well, then it's not going to be Leia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? I mean, yeah, from that standpoint, yeah, that would have been a totally different story, though. Yeah. Like, we got Leia. We know that Leia is the other Skywalker. Yeah. And we know because of the prequels that Padme didn't have triplets.
Right.
So, like you're kind of stuck with this story, and kind of trying to slap it together and have it make sense. I think this is a perfectly fine way to do that. I think this is an effective way to do it. I don't have a problem with it. It's not a big deal. I just, is it necessary? No, not really. Do I question the motivation of it? Maybe a little bit, not enough to like make me lose any sleep or get my blood pressure raised in any sort of reason. Or is it interesting enough to make me want to read the book? No, not really.
All right, Case, thanks for joining us for this segment.
Yay!
And obviously, you're this big Trek fan in the group here.
Oh yeah, I insisted when this was coming up. I was like, I should weigh in, right?
Right.
I mean, somebody has to, because
considering
Addy and I would go, meh.
And you're the only one who's watched it too, so.
Because you and I look at it and go, meh.
Well, tell me
I
what.
just watch it. I actually signed up for the goddamn annual pass.
See, that's exactly why
Annual pass
that's
that
exactly
far.
15% off.
Fuck that. That's exactly why
I'd give it a
won't watch
month-to-month basis.
I think it's dumb. I'm mad about it, but
You're gonna watch the whole season,
I was like,
right?
well, I'm gonna watch the season at least, and like, how much would it be if I was to get it on like iTunes or Amazon, if that's even an option? Because I don't even know.
Right.
And ultimately, I was like, all right, take my money. Now shut up.
So we clearly got the brief version that
So you
not
love
so
it.
good.
No. I'm talking about the process
Just the CBS
yeah, the
deal.
CBS deal.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
that's annoying. Especially because then I downloaded the app for my Xbox 360, and it's like, can't connect to servers. And I'm like, fuck you. This is
I
all the
hate you,
experience of
CBS.
trying to watch it. So I marathoned it on my Surface, and I like it, but I don't know what I'm watching. Like, so there's 3 episodes. Maybe it's like 1 2-hour pilot and then an episode. I don't know, but it's enjoyable. The aesthetics are actually really cool. There's a lot of questions I have about continuity, timelines, all these things. But what is this thing? I don't know yet. Like, I think we're watching a Section 31 show, which is amazing. Section 31's like the KGB of Starfleet. And I think that's what the show is, which is cool. It takes a long time to get there. You find that out at the end of the 3rd episode. You're like, oh, okay, 3 hours in, we're finally getting to the plot. Okay, cool. All right.
That's a lot of establishment.
The first 2 hours is basically a retcon of Enterprise, or at least in terms of like making things match up with this idea that the Klingons had this terrible first contact with humanity, and as a result we were in a terrible war. It's that war. Like, it starts off that war like it's a bad encounter with them. They, like, the Federation hasn't, quote unquote, seen the Klingons for like 100 years at this point. And then things go really far south really fast, and it's an exciting sequence with like cool motivations for characters. That's all really great, and it's awesome to do that. Klingons don't look anything like Klingons.
I saw the picture and I was like, well, that is really...
I don't hate the look of them, but it is different.
It's different, for sure.
So like there's 2 parts of the look. So the clothing looks really weird. That it's got this weird sort of like blooming flower kind of look to it all, where like some look more like spines and some more look like leaves. But either way, it's like this epicenter's their chest, and then from them burst forth whatever is the design for their armors. And that I have a bigger problem with, like in terms of continuity of design. Like, it just doesn't look anything like what we've ever seen before. But we did see a Klingon spacesuit with a bat'leth for space, and that looked really cool. So that was pretty, like, those are fun.
Yeah.
Ship was fine. Then the actual anatomy of the Klingon looked weird. And I feel like that's an attempt at, like, bridging TOS with all the later Klingon stuff, and also being more extreme because they have the budget to do it.
Right.
But I'm not sold. It looks very extreme for the sake of being extreme on a race that we know pretty well at this point.
Right. And I like the look of the TNG Klingons.
Yeah, like that was a pretty well designed look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it seem to be trying to establish them in a way that, like, is trying to make some new exciting reveals about the Klingons? Does that
They might be getting to that point. They've got some stuff that's like kind of Game of Thronesy going on with, like, so the Klingon Empire is not really an empire, and they kind of go into this in TNG with it's like this huge Klingon civil war and like all the stuff that goes on. But in this era, they are not a unified force. It's actually 24 like great houses that rule the Klingon Empire, and there's no central leadership. So at this point, this is kind of dealing with those politics and how they essentially become more aligned as an empire because they have the threat of the Federation to face off against.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting.
So that's what unifies them.
What is interesting is that Enterprise handled Klingons terribly. And this is definitely trying to fix a lot of that. And I can get behind that.
Right.
Like, I didn't hate Enterprise, but the pilot was terrible. And that was where they did first contact with the Klingons. And you're like, wait, why would Picard 300 years later be saying, like, well, we had a disastrous first contact with Klingons, and as a result, we were in a centuries-long war? Because that's not what happens in the show. So that's... They kind of sidestep that. I'm happy with the scenes we get. The Federation feels a lot more cohesive than the TOS Federation does. The TOS Federation has this like this convention to allow for it to be mostly human ships, where it's like, well, it's a human ship because humans all like have this set of environmental needs, and then other people's ships, we've got Vulcan ships that have all this environmental needs, and Andorian ones for all these ones, and that's kind of in their background literature. That's not really in the show. This one actually has like a more of a mixed cast. It's kind of that element of like, well, but we've got our 3 aliens. That's the ones you're going to pay attention to, and then the rest of the crew is all human, and it's, I don't know.
Do you like the crew? I know it's early.
It is early. Doug Jones, I love as an actor.
Right.
He is definitely doing his Doug Jonesiest with like all of his finger movements. I don't know if you've ever seen Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, I remember Abe Sapien.
Yeah. Well, Abe Sapien also, but like, actually, Abe Sapien especially.
Yeah.
Anything he does with his hands, when he like Abe Sapien in like inspecting stuff, he does the exact same hand gestures now, where it's like these very elongated finger pushes on like keyboards. It's really weird looking, and I'm not sure if that's
Would
just
you
like
call it alien?
Yes. I'm missing.
I mean, you go for it, right?
They talk a lot about Andorians and Tellarites. I would have liked that because we get some fun aliens here that we've never seen before. And like Doug Jones is, I think they called him a Kelvin, which I don't think we've ever seen outside of this series. But he's cool, and I like his character. I think they are definitely twisting one key detail, which is that everyone hates each other in this. No one trusts anyone. No one respects anyone fully. Like, they might grudgingly respect someone, but everyone kind of has a reason to hate everyone. And that is very different. On the ship.
Oh, interesting.
That is a very different thing for Star Trek.
Yeah, everybody usually likes each other.
Yeah.
Like a little too much.
They kind of started off that way. Like, you feel like at the opening of the show, that's the path they're going to go on. And then things go awry when they encounter the Klingons, and then all of a sudden, a lot of group dynamics are very different. And that's really cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting twist, because like I always like, you know, when you hear about the Federation and you kind of like see the unified front of the humans and the Vulcans and the Andorians like all working together, and it's this peaceful, blissful existence minus the Romulans and the Klingons and eventually the Borg, but like, it's, to me, like, it always felt like okay, yeah, that's ideal, but come on, like,
well, yeah, and
problems.
they kind of play with that. Like TNG, the great thing was like Worf being on the ship. It was indicative of, oh, well, our old enemies can eventually become our allies, and that's the Star Trek ethos. But this one is dealing with the actual personal like
dynamics,
friction,
right?
And like I said, I think this is actually about like the KGB in space.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of questions like, are we developing a way to like wipe out alien races, like full stop? Oh, maybe. I don't know. Like, maybe that's where the show's going.
That'd be all right. I'd be okay with that.
Like, they have a lot of scenes where they're like, we're not trying to do that, but I kind of feel like there's like a little bit of
there's going to be somebody who wants to push it.
Right.
Interesting. So where do you think it's going to go? Do you think
as a series?
Do you think it's going to make it? Or it's too early to tell?
It's too early to tell.
Well, here's another quick twist on sort of your thoughts on the show. Sort of leaving out it being a Star Trek show. What do you think of the quality of the show itself? Or do you think you're giving it a little extra patience or anything as a Star Trek fan?
Well, there's a part of me that wonders if I'm actually being harsher on parts of it because I'm a Star Trek fan. Because, like for example, what I said about Klingons, I probably wouldn't hate that if it wasn't an established race in a franchise, you know? It's a beautiful show. Like, and the effects are great. Like, it's very well produced. It looks better, frankly, than most of the J.J. Abrams movies. Like, or at least like maybe not like specific like huge scenes, but like there's the general aesthetic. It just looks great. I think the distribution mode for America is really rough, and I think that's going to kind of limit it from finding its audience, because like who cares? Like you're either already a Trek fan and so you'll sign up for this stupid series because you're that much of a Trek fan, or you're not, because no one's signing up for CBS All Access for Big Bang Theory.
If they do, I'd like to meet that person so I can punch them in the face.
Like elsewhere in the world, it's on Netflix, and like I think that would have real legs because the show looks really good. The actors are so far pretty good. The world they're in feels very familiar if you've only seen the Abrams movies or like the New Era movies. Like there's a bunch of flashbacks to Vulcan that are straight out of the 2009 Star Trek movie.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, like there's a couple actors that have been recast from those movies because they just couldn't get those actors, which is kind of sad because that would have been a nice like nod to at least connecting it all. And other Trek series that have brought on actors from movies have done so. Like James Cromwell, who played Zephyr Cochrane in First Contact, is in Enterprise as like they have a recording of him as a really old man sending off like the first like ships in Starfleet. So they've done a good job in the past, and in this one, it's all new actors for everything. But it looks really great. The uniforms are weird. The technology is weird. Like the holograms they use for communications, really good. Feels a little Star Trek-y, but better, but are very good. Nothing like they have anything else in the show. Like it's way more advanced than any other series we've seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense, though. I mean, because, you know, it was, TNG was, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's the thing. They talked about this when they were making Enterprise, where the technology of the day has now eclipsed the technology of the show.
The original show, yeah.
And so we're no longer just like pie in the sky space fantasy. Like you're dealing with the fact that our tech is actually getting past there. And how do you design it to look still good
and fit into the world?
So I mean, I'm willing to give it a pass on, especially on like TOS stuff, because you're just like, oh, whatever. It's like it's 60s, so abstract. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
But it is very noticeably sophisticated technology, and they are talking about some technology that they're working on that doesn't quite make sense in the timeline in terms of like, oh, that's really advanced and crazy, and like I don't know how you would have drama after that thing actually happens, which is my problem with like Into Darkness. And so who knows? We'll find out.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think, do you have any other questions? I don't have any questions. I think that sums it up. It's not enough to make me want to watch it. I'm not trying to be mean about the show.
I'd say if you have the ability to watch it,
Trekkie fan,
well, if you're a Trek fan, absolutely you should go watch it. I would not take the people who are being negative at face value. I think there's a lot of haters. Yeah. Especially for what is actually on screen. What's on screen is actually a very well produced, very well edited, very well acted sci-fi drama. If you could watch it for free, absolutely go check it out. And if you can't, I don't know if it's worth it.
Thanks, Case. We have some upcoming movies and TV shows on October 6th. Blade Runner 2049 will be coming out. Supergirl will be returning to the CW on October 9th. So be sure to, put that on your calendar.
Have you ever seen Blade Runner?
No, I need to watch it.
Let's watch it. I haven't seen it in like 20 years.
Yeah?
I don't remember anything at all about that movie. Nothing. I couldn't tell you a single plot point.
I have to watch it before I see the new one. Like, there's no way.
We should just get together and watch it, because I'm not going to go see 2049 because I don't remember the first one.
Sure.
At all.
So, let us know what you think about any of the stories we've talked about today, or about Star Trek Discovery as well, and what you're excited about coming up in the next couple of months as far as nerd movies and TV shows and books and comics and all that kind of stuff. You can get in touch with us on our website, certainpov.com. All our podcasts are there, available to subscribe to. All of our social media is there. You can also be a part of this podcast if you would like to, through Patreon. Again, all of that is on our website, certainpov.com. And until next week, stay scruffy, my nerf herders.
Thanks for listening to Certain Point of View. Don't miss an episode. Just subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. Head over to certainpov.com.